Everyone, thank you for being here for our 116th webinar. Before we begin, I'd like to mention that this session's feedback form will be shared 15 minutes before the end of the session, so keep an eye out in the chat for that. Please fill it in. We'd love to get your feedback, and that's how you get your record of participation. Now, for today's webinar, I'd like to introduce Ms. Tanvi Ajmera, the founder and director of Hibiki, the Learning Factory. She's here to speak to us today on how students learning soft skills now can help their employability in the future. So everybody, please give a warm welcome in the chat, Miss Tanvi Ajmera. Thank you.
Hi, Akbar. Thank you so much for that wonderful little introduction that you've put for me. And a very good hello and namaste to everyone who's present with us here today. So, of course, I'd want to know how many of us are here together. If you guys could quickly put in like a hello and your name or some adjective that you use for yourself. So, maybe I would say talkative Tanvi. That's the word I would use for myself. So if any of you could quickly put in words for yourself, if you could tell us where you're from or your name, etc., would love to get to know you guys a little bit before we actually begin with our session today. So I realize we're almost 85 people together watching. Yes. And I would want to know a quick, where we are from or whatever you'd want to tell us a little bit about yourself, please. You already know my name, Tanvi Ajmera, and I come from Hibiki, the Learning Factory, which is the name of my setup. So I'd want to know a little bit about you too. If you could just put in a hi, hello, something so that we know that you're there and you're listening to us. And meanwhile, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and share my screen. So Akbar, you'll have to give me a heads up.
Sorry, can you repeat that? Okay, I see your screen. Yeah.
You do?
Yep. Very clear.
Excellent.
Can we get a reply from the chat as well, if everything's clear?
Yeah, I think that'd be nice if we can receive some sort of a response from the chat, please. If I'm visible, audible, the slides are visible, a quick confirmation would be very nice. All right. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we will begin our discussion. And of course, in case there are audio video problems, I'm sure you guys will take out some time to let us know. So I would, want to welcome you all firstly for being here and spending almost 1 hour of your time with me. I really appreciate that effort you're putting in. And my discussion is a lot around something which is a cause that I personally believe in. So I've been a student, I've been an employee, and I'm also an entrepreneur now. So I come from that place where I've been through all of the stages which I'm going to talk about today, which is why this is one particular topic which is very close to my heart, and I'd want to discuss it with, of course, all ladies and gentlemen present here, because we're also in the same fraternity of extending knowledge to our students. So my entire discussion is around preparing students that are future ready, future proof, and in a world that is evolving every single day, my question to everybody is that are we empowering our students with skills that will help them kickstart their careers? Or are we actually preparing them to be the world class leaders that a lot of students have the potential to be? So, with that, we will officially open my discussion. And when it comes to this webinar, there are very, very few expectations that I have in general. So there are three O's for attending this webinar. One is it's a very objective discussion. So we want a lot of you to put in your perspective, your ideas. If there are places where you think there's something that you want to add on, please feel free to use the chat and add on to the entire discussion. The second O that I'm talking about is the fact that all of us need to be open, right? So when we are discussing something, it's very important for us to come with an open mind, because that's when I think others' ideas will somehow be able to make sense or resonate with us. And last but not the least, I'm a very optimistic person. So I'm expecting a lot of optimism also via this entire session. Of course, your optimism will only be able to come to me when there's a chat that happens. So please do feel free to discuss with us and put in your ideas. While I understand that we are on a YouTube live, but I can assure you that this can be as interactive as possible, if you guys of course put in your chats, comments, etc. Right, so these are quick little expectations that I have during our entire session. Now these are the questions that I want you to take a moment and ask yourself. How many of the Indian graduates are employable after 15 years of education? So when I say 15 years of education, I mean that students start with 12 years, which is their schooling years, and post that, a basic graduate degree takes them between 3 to 4 years. So that's roughly 15 years of education that students are going through. And how many of our Indian graduates are actually employable after these 15 years of education? Yes, and if you guys have quick figures, please feel free to put it in the chat box. My second question to you is that out of all the students you have been mentoring, you have been hand holding throughout your journeys, throughout your careers, I'm sure you must have identified so many students who are excellent, or maybe when we were coaching them, when we were teaching them, we knew for a matter of fact that these students will go out there and make it big. But how many of them have actually landed the job either that they aspired for, or a job that you think, according to the markets, according to their skill sets, they actually deserved? That's my second question that I want you to ponder on. How many students are aware of the employability skills that are required? So of course all of us are governed by a curriculum, and we have to stick to the curriculum when it comes to educating and spreading knowledge. But at the same time, there are things that we also pick out which is outside the curriculum. So, for things that are outside the curriculum, such as employability skills, how many students, the ones you have mentored or the ones you are mentoring right now, are aware of what the skills are that they would require as soon as they move out of schools and colleges? These are the three questions that I'd want you to think of and present answers to yourself, or maybe in the chat box to us. Yes? Now, when I'm speaking to you today, of course, I intend to present some facts to you. And while these facts may be a little difficult for us to swallow, but I think it's time we keep a check and we take it up. So, when it comes to how can Indian students, graduates improve their employability, that's an article which I have taken from India Education, as you can see on my screen. The NASCOM McKinsey report, Perspective 2020, Transform Business, Transform India, said that only 26% of India's engineering graduates were employable. So, this is the data which not you, not I have created, but this is the data which we have received. So, imagine all the number of graduates that are actually passing out every single year. But of those graduates, only 26% are actually employable, are people who can get jobs. If you look at my chart on the right, you will be able to see figures out here. While I'm not sure if it is very visible on you for the screen, but if you just focus on the last column, which is data for 2021, you will be in a position to know that none of these courses have even reached 50% employability, which means out of every two students, one student currently in India is unemployable. Now, my question to the entire fraternity, including myself out here, is that when we look at students in school, when we look at students in colleges, eventually we are all preparing them for a future that is promising, a future where the dreams that they thought of will materialize. But when you see such data, where even after years of rigorous education, It's difficult for any student who has put in a minimum of 15 years to get a job. I feel there is a problem that somewhere, something is not on track, something is not in place. So, if we have to go back and think about these questions, of course, like I said, all of you are free to put in your answers in the chat box about what you think about the data that I have just presented to you. There's some other data also that I would want to present, right? And like I said, that there are certain facts that I would want to present to you. Though these might be harsh, but it's important that all of us know of what's exactly happening. So, my first pointer reads out that suicides due to employment went up by 24% from 2016 to 2019. And this data is the NCRB data. So, if I have to speak of a cycle here, the cycle is that students invest in getting degrees, students invest in education. And while they have the degrees, while they have the education, they still don't get jobs. When they don't get jobs, there's pressure. And when I mean pressure, I mean all sorts of pressure. There is social isolation that a student can go through. So when you belong to a same batch and when you belong to a same group, and you're seeing that around you people are doing things in life, but you're the one who's been left out, it does strike you somewhere deep down. There's mental health issues that happens. So of course, when I have been putting in a lot of effort in terms of my education, in terms of pursuing my academics, in terms of doing my assignments, in terms of doing my projects, there is no way in my mind that I can accept that I do not deserve to get a simple job. A job that could possibly pay off my loans, a job that could possibly help me survive in another city, considering my placement may not happen in my hometown. My second pointer, ladies and gentlemen, reads out that India has reported one suicide per hour due to joblessness, indebtedness, and poverty. And again, if I have to speak to you of the vicious circle that I'm talking about here. So, a student is passing out, he doesn't have a job. When he doesn't have a job, if there are existing loans that he has to pay, if there's a certain lifestyle that he has to maintain, if the family was dependent on him for something, there's indebtedness, there's poverty. And only after that do you get such thoughts that maybe ending life was easier because I do not know the way out. I've been there, I've done that. Also, from data at Hibiki, we found out that students who are unemployed have a greater tendency to commit suicide. So, when we talk about peer pressure, we talk about very simple things. We talk about things like maybe I don't have the clothes that the other person is wearing, maybe I don't carry the gadgets that the other person is wearing. But peer pressure is not just for these things. Peer pressure also is when you've gone to the same place, when you've acquired the same degree, there's one student who has been able to get a job, and there's the other best friend who hasn't been able to get a job. And most of us, when we speak with students, the sort of replies that we get would be, ma'am, there aren't enough jobs in the market. Ma'am, I'm not getting the sort of jobs that I want to do. These are the sort of replies that we get. So we will further discuss what exactly happens and what this vicious cycle leads to. So now I want you to meet two characters of my story today. And here I would really need you people to please put in your comments in the chat box so that we understand what you're thinking, right? So I want you to meet Nancy, and let's understand who is Nancy or what is she doing. So Nancy is a 21-year-old ambitious and confident girl. So she has very good dreams. She's thought out what she wants to do. She has pursued her Bachelor of Commerce with a specialization in marketing. Please excuse me. Nancy has been an average student all her life. So she's got her thoughts clear. She knows what she wants to do. However, as a student, she's never been able to score excellently. She's inclined towards engaging in social activities, participating in debates, and pursuing different courses to enhance her personality. So she was never too bent towards academics, but something that always inspired her, something that always motivated her, was the fact that she could do social activities. She could participate in debates. She could pursue different courses, right? During her interview, she is able to communicate effectively. And when you ask her to sell a pen to you, she can convince you. So while you are sitting on the interview panel discussing Nancy's profile, discussing Nancy's ambitions, goals, she is able to tell you how she visualizes herself. She is able to tell you of where she sees herself in 5 years. And then you think, okay, fine, Nancy, you're telling me that you've pursued a bachelor's in marketing. How about you sell me a pen? And she is in a position to convince you, right? So we've met Nancy. Now, moving on from Nancy, let's go to Ron. So, Ron is a 21 years old boy and he's academically brilliant. He has been a ranker in his school and in his college. Yes. So, when you visualize Ron, you can see the medals, you can see the trophies, you can see excellent report cards with smileys on them. Ron is an introvert and he faces a lot of difficulty in expressing himself. During his interview, he has complete technical knowledge, right? So when you ask him questions which are related to what he has read, maybe about Philip Kotler's model, maybe about how he thinks marketing works, maybe about the different verticals of marketing, he has knowledge. When you test him with situational questions, you realize he can't work in teams and won't be able to lead a team by inspiring them, right? So you've given him a certain questions because you wanted to understand his behavior since he hasn't been able to talk a lot about himself. And you've realized that here he's not being able to, be a team player before you. You are not being able to visualize him as a leader the way you visualized Nancy as a leader. Now, my question to all you ladies and gentlemen out here is that considering you were hiring, which one would be your first choice? Right? And I would please wait for your answers in the chat box. So I'm going to take a moment to stop sharing my screen while I actually wait for you people to put in your answers. So if any of you can tell me that out of Nancy and Ron, who would you actually want to hire and bring onto your team, considering you were running an organization yourself? Anyone? If you could please put in your answers. That who's going to be your top hiring choice and why would you hire that person over the other person? Nancy. Everyone's putting in Nancy. Nancy for sure. Ron needs more training. Nancy because she has practical knowledge. Nancy because of her excellent communication. Nancy, Nancy, Nancy. Everyone's saying Nancy. Great. Nancy's developed additional skills. Excellent. She's academically average, but she has a long term goal and is also co scholastically strong. So she fares good in life. Okay. Great. Everyone's putting in Nancy. Now, my question to you is why is obviously our choice Nancy? You know, because if we look at our entire school curriculum, if we look at our entire education pattern, I've had a parent at my house, and I'm sure all of you are parents to wonderful children. I'm sure you are mentoring students who have wonderful parents. At every point in time during the entire juncture, our focus is always, are you scoring this much? Do you have these many marks? Score 90 if you want a new mobile phone. come second or first if you want this. So every single time when we are discussing anything with our children, when we are discussing anything with our students, it's very mark centric. We decide and we make comments and we make biases only based on what their marks are. But here, when I put you in the hiring situation, which is between Nancy and Ron, who would you actually pick? We are ready to pick someone who's an average student but who has excellent other skills. Reason being, those skills are the skills that she needs for the job. So even if educationally on paper, she's a 6 CGPA, 7 CGPA, I know that, okay, as long as she can sell me the pen, which is the exact skill I need, it doesn't matter if she has not been able to score as a academically brilliant student would. So along with knowledge, what is also important is these skills, because without these skill sets it becomes very difficult for us to sell ourselves in the market. So I will use my own example for you, right? I am a graduate in accountancy and finance, and I was a 9.64 CGPA. My 10 and 12 scores have also been in the same range. So I've always worked hard, kept my education in place. Not that it was excellent all the time, but it was in place. And after class 12, I happened to actually start an internship. It was with a company called Major Solutions. It's MEJOR. And when I started with the internship, I was with somebody else who's just passed class 12, so he's also as equivalent that I was. He had also just passed class 12. However, my boss always used to favor him more, right? It did upset me in the beginning, but I realized that that's because he had the skill set. So he knew exactly how to use Tally. Whereas I was an academically brilliant student who's done journal and ledger on paper. I never, thought that, okay, I need to go around and figure how it works on Tally. So today, for most of us, in case of the sort of education that we have, it's very based on things which will help us get the degree, which is very, very important in life. But my question is, what are we doing in order to empower our students with skills? As a graduate in accountancy and finance, when I'm a 9.64 CGPA, academically much brighter than the other person who was interning with me, yet he knew his job better. He knew his job better because he knew Tally. He knew how to work with computers. He knew how to make presentations. And I did not. So if you look at this in terms of every single industry that we are looking at, right? Simple things like communication, confidence, working out a good body language. How many of us discuss these issues at our own home or at our own schools, at our own colleges? We barely have these conversations. We prepare them to be educationally excellent and then we push them out in the market. We push them out in a market which is unknown, which is challenging, which is going to hit back at them because there are other people who know it better. And that again leads to a vicious circle. It further brings down your confidence. It further makes you a closed person where you do not want to communicate with people, when you do not want to get noticed by people. So when you take Nancy and Ron, what I want to let you guys know that there is one Nancy, one Ron, and 100 Nancys and 100 Rons just around us. So the onus is here to be able to prepare these students to be able to take on the future. That too in an era where everything is changing every single day. So if I have to give you another example, when you look at television ads, ladies and gentlemen, the format is pretty much the same. So you will have one celebrity perhaps endorsing it. You will have a nice jingle if they have some music element to it. You will have the product demonstration. Yes. And it's going to be typically a 30 to 60 seconds ad. But if you talk about how much internet has evolved, so when it comes to marketing on internet, we started with pay per click ads. We started with pop-up and banner ads. After pop-up and banner ads, we moved to pay-per-click ads. Post which we moved to pay-per-performance ad. Now we have influence marketing. So the dynamics have completely changed with the internet coming in, with the world becoming a global village, with everything, technology speeding everything. So today my question is, when we have an entire rigorous school curriculum, something like basic Microsoft Office skills, so that a student is able to make presentations and deliver those presentations before all of us, aren't these very, very important skills which will help them in the long run? So, with that, I would want to come back to my entire discussion. Allow me a moment to please share my screen. So, if you look at the slide that I have, could you tell me what is the picture that you see on the left, which is a building with a flag on the top? Anyone who can guess and tell me what's that picture on the left? Anybody who can guess what's the picture on the left? I'm just waiting for my slides to load, please. So give me a moment. I don't know why it's not got loaded. Give me a moment, please. Well, it's still not sharing. So, all right, nothing visible. Okay, now it's visible. Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for your response. Right, right. So, a couple of people have guessed it correctly. People are saying it's a school building or it's a university. Excellent. Thank you so much for your response. I hope it's visible now. I hope it's visible now. Thank you so much. Great. It's a school building, right? And post the school building, what do we see on the right? Yes, so Hardeep says university to office. Okay, okay. Others, what do you think the building on the right is? Of course, thank you so much, everyone, for your responses. What I'm basically trying to tell you is that from school, we are preparing students, we are getting them corporate ready, we are getting them future ready, we are pushing them out. And from there, they are joining these different corporates that they've always dreamt to be in. However, there's some sort of an employability gap that we have in our market. Reason being, it's quoted by NASCOM, it's quoted by all the other different portals that are doing this survey on a very ongoing basis, that when it comes to the skill sets that these students need in order to get a job, they lack that. So there is this employability gap despite India having one of the best education systems in the world. We were also happy when we saw, CEOs of all different big organizations to be Indians. We were taking a lot of pride in it. So, it wouldn't be unfair for me to say that we have an excellent education system. Yet, when it comes to our students taking the bull by its horn, there's somewhere some sort of an imbalance. There's somewhere some sort of a problem. There's somewhere some sort of a gap. Now, why are these skills important in the first place? When I'm constantly ranting to you about skills, why are these skills important, right? Number one, students will have an array of opportunities to pick from. So most of the times when we look at, how placements happen for students, there's possibly students are in a fear that let me take what has come because I might not get what, some other option after this. But my point is, why is it so? When we have so many jobs in the market, when we have so many placement drives, when there are Freshers notifications that come on monster.com, naukri.com, at all these places, why is it that our students still have the fear that they will not be able to secure another job, so they should take the first job that they have? So number one, for our students to actually have like a buffet that they pick from, that okay, I sat for 5 interviews and I think I align with this company's vision, I think I will be able to grow here. The skill sets will empower the students to have that sort of an opportunity. Students will be able to perform better and climb the corporate ladder. So like I mentioned to all of you, that we take care of our students in schools and colleges. Really, we want to ensure that life is not difficult for them, that they are challenged, but it's not like they are thrown out in the deep waters. We are always backing them, we're always supporting them. This same support of the transition from school to college stops, and it stops all of a sudden, when you're not expecting it. So again, to give you my own example, and again I'm going to just stop sharing my slide with you so that I can discuss with you. If I have to share my own example with you, what happens is, I started my career with United Nations Conference for Trade and Development. I was a graduate in 2015, and I was extremely lucky to be able to meet my national director at a conference, and we happened to have a conversation, and he said, Tanvi, why don't you come on board? And for me, I was star-eyed. I said, wow, this is with United Nations. I'm going to, like, that's going to be my first job, something that people crave for. And of course, I started my job. On the third day of my job, my, you know, director, so I had written an email to one of our colleagues in another country, and I had used incorrect punctuation marks in that email. My language was not concise and clear, and therefore he sent an email saying that, apologies, my colleague has not been able to explain this well, so I'm going to take a chance and talk to you about it. Now my point is, again, the same thing. English score for me, 92 on 100. Yet when it came to writing one precise email, I did not have those skill sets that I was able to do it. I was lucky that I had somebody who beautifully wrote that my colleague has made a mistake and I will explain. Not all students have such amazing people to work with. They will possibly be in confrontation with somebody who's going to say, what school and college that do you come from that you don't even know how to write an email? And this is going to affect the self esteem, the self confidence. It's going to deter the student's happiness, determination that he had or she had about just the first job. So when we start our careers as freshers, there's so much we are hoping. We imagine nice offices, brilliant mentors to work with, colleagues that will be with us for a lifetime. Even if not in the same organization, we will stay in touch with them. And from there, what we actually come to is too much of workload because we do not know time management skills, right? Confrontations and issues that happen because we've not been able to communicate well. Dissatisfaction at the end of the day because we think we are not being able to perform well. And where does the root of all of this lie? Because if I ask anybody, when do we talk to our students about goal setting? We set goals for them and say, get so much in 10, get so much in 12, do engineering or do this, or whatever you pursue, in the end, you should be able to get this much, that much. Time management, or maybe things like, how will you have difficult conversations with people? I have been on both sides of appearing for interviews and taking interviews. In most situations, when we give students a situation where they have to talk about conflict, they avoid it because none of them know or understand how conflict management is done. But academically, they have the scores. They have the scores that qualify for a perfect job. But when it comes to the behaviors that they should exhibit, when it comes to the skills that they could possibly demonstrate, I don't see my students standing up there. And that affects me. And I'm sure it affects all of you as well. So, coming back again to my presentation, we'll just take a moment to share it, and you guys can confirm once you can see it, please. Thank you so much, Jasjeet. Now, students will feel empowered to take on difficulties in the corporate world. Any difficult project, and you will see a fresher saying, Sir, I'll shadow. Sir, how about I do this from the next project? Sir, how about, we can do this in a team? Because we are hesitant. Why are we hesitant? Because we know somewhere deep down that we lack the skills. It's not present. And what we think then is, how am I going to do it? Simple things like sorting out data on Excel, our students don't know. Simple things like being able to use an animation that is clear, or maybe what are the sort of professional fonts that we can use on a PowerPoint, our students don't know. Very simple, basic things. And it all comes down to them. Whereas I feel they are the last people who should be blamed or face the brunt of it, because we are preparing them. We are ensuring that they get the jobs that they get, that they deserve. Social recognition and mental health. I'm sure all of us have been through this at some or the other point in our careers or journey. That we feel the need to be recognized by people. It feels amazing when someone comes up and tells me, Tanvi, you know what? It's such an excellent PPT that you made. Very simple thing. It's just a presentation, but feels nice when someone puts a pat on my back because I've put effort into this. That recognition matters to me. Or it makes me feel very happy when someone says, your communication skills have really improved from what we had seen earlier. It makes me feel like the effort that I was putting in, it's visible to people. Next, mental health. So most of us, like I said, because we focus on academic excellence, there's a lot of pressure that we build when it comes to that, but we do not build pressure for the soft skills, for the employability skills. And all of these, ladies and gentlemen, are linked. You don't get a good job, you don't get a good salary. You don't get a good salary, you don't feel you're doing well as your peers. You don't feel you're doing as well as your peers. You think this is, you're less empowered, or less fortunate that they have been. It all takes a mental health toll on you. And yet when something bad happens, we say, oh, he was such a good boy, he was such a sincere boy. These are the ways that we remember him, that he was sincere, he was good, he was hardworking. But his existence got washed out, which possibly could have been another story if he was empowered, if he had the correct skills. Now, when I'm discussing skills, I want to present to you the top 10 skills which are very, very important. And this list has been generated by recruiters. The first thing is commercial awareness. We want our students to be aware of what is happening around them. So imagine a student who is working on a finance job but doesn't understand what's happened with the stock market. Finance job, maybe he's just doing simple filing of papers, but you still expect him to know about what's happening in the domain that he's interested in, about the domain that he wants to pursue as a career. So the awareness is very important. And where does this awareness come from? This awareness comes from exposing ourselves. exposing ourselves to reading, exposing ourselves to picking up news. And pardon me to say this, but while most of us think that social media does not give us the correct sort of information, or we're not engaging correctly, I am on a lot of social media platforms and I garner the information that I want for myself. Because even before it comes on news platforms, you will see someone putting up an update on Facebook or Twitter about something that's happened. So of course, if you want to use it the right way, provided these discussions have happened, you can use it the right way. Communication, that's the second most important skill. So when it comes to communication, what is very, very essential? Tell me which job does not need communication? Which job? Whether you are sitting at the back office or whether you are sitting in the front office, wherever you are, something that is very, very important and essential is the fact that you can talk to people. Could be as simple as, hello, how are you? How was your day today? Simple communication, but these are things that we don't work on. So I'm going to think in my own mind, I am not too confident to speak with this person. Let me just keep quiet. Often that gets mistaken as an attitude problem. Or this person is never going to go out with us after office. He's always got stuff to do. The reality is it's not stuff, but he doesn't feel comfortable or confident to communicate. Teamwork. When it comes to teamwork, most of us are able to work alone because the complete responsibility, accountability is on us. But when it comes to teamwork, it's very, very belittled as one of the skills. At the same time, people do face challenging problems. India is such a diverse country, ladies and gentlemen. I have worked in Hyderabad, I have worked in Jaipur, I have been to Mumbai and worked there in Mumbai. I know there is a complete mix that we have. And in that mix, it is your team adapting capabilities that will help you to mix. Otherwise, what happens is you start having groups that you're comfortable in. So if I'm from Calcutta, I will mix with people who are from Calcutta or who speak the language that I speak. And therefore, I never get exposed to other paths, to other projects, to other things. So much more that I could take on. Teamwork, negotiation, and persuasion. Every single step that we take in our lives is about persuading someone or the other. It starts with as simple as class 10, which career stream you want to take, you got to persuade your parents. Post which the career you want to take up, you got to persuade maybe people around you. Then when you sit for interviews, you got to persuade the HR person. Then when you think you want to, you deserve a promotion, you're persuading the manager. Persuasion is something that we are taking on every day. But how many people have formally taught us, what? These are the 3 W's if you want to persuade someone. Do this and you will be able to manage. Nobody discusses these problems. Problem solving. So when we talk about problem solving, how many of us are having a solution mindset? Not many of us. We delve on the problem, we delve on what has happened, and this behavior replicates around our students also. They do the same. No solution mindset. Leadership. So, with a lot of people, when they talk about India, since I work with people abroad, a lot of people today also have the notion that Indians like to be led by people. They are good followers. And that is something that I want to break. We are good leaders. We just got to empower our students the correct way. Organization skills, how to manage timetable schedules, work life balance, motivation. Most of us look for motivation from the external world. I'm never going to say, you know what, I did a good day today, let me go get a spa. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait for the motivation to come from my boss. I'm going to wait for the motivation to come from my teacher. I'm not going to say, okay, today I've scored well, today I've done a good day, I'm going to reward myself with one brownie. We don't do that because the motivation doesn't come from here, it's always external. Ability to work under pressure. So we are all pressure cookers essentially. There's deadlines, there's taking care of family, there's taking care of your own needs, there's groceries that you need to do, there's your pet that you possibly have to take care of. There's tremendous pressure, and it's going to remain this way, ladies and gentlemen. Are our students ready? And if they are ready, why do we have so many suicides? Why do we have so many mental health disorders? Confidence, last but not the least. Yes, so act like you know it all, even when you don't know it all. The confidence to be able to do things, try new things, that is also something that our students essentially lack. So how about we take some time to empower them when we know that these are things that will matter? Why don't we imbibe them imbibe this in our students at an early age, so that they are in a position to go out there and fly and come back to us and say, you know what, you made a difference to our lives. I knew something that you told me during school, during college, that has stayed with me throughout. Now, I've discussed a lot about the problems. What is our way forward? And how are we going to move ahead? How are we going to tackle this, right? It's very important to be able to embed these skills in the format of classes. So, I'm sure that everyone has a lot of curriculum and education that they have to work with. But it's my sincere request to whoever's present here and in a position to do something, if you can, please embed these skills in the format of classes. So let's say if we just have one SUPW class, or we have one extracurricular class where we get them to work in teams together, and we pair up people who have a problem with each other, because even in the corporate you will work with people who you don't like. You can't quit the job if you don't like the person. So how about we actually get them to work in teams? How about we tell them, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to make you talk in front of everybody, and you work on confidence, and you go and give him a pat on his back for being able to try. So if these skills can be embedded in the format of classes and include personality development. So none of us speak of 360-degree development. This is a word that I don't hear so much with students. They think we need to score well, we need to get good degrees. We get good degrees, we'll get good jobs. But nobody realizes that gap between good degrees and jobs is personality, is X factor, is your USP, is how you can convince that person to be able to give you a job. So, if we can include some aspects of personality development and engage students in self awareness, I realize that I am not a good communicator when I sit for my first interview in my life. That's when I realize I have a problem and I'm not being able to speak well. Because until then, I have been speaking to my friends, to my family, and I have been very, very comfortable doing it. Nobody has challenged me to move outside my comfort zone in the first place. So it's important to engage the students in self awareness so that they realize, you know what, these are my strengths and these are things that I got to work on, that I got to seek help for. And help is available. It's available online, it's available from all of you, it's available from any place that they actually want to seek in. They can talk to their parents about their experience. But as long as they know that they need the help, as long as they realize that these are things that they have to hone. So, with that, we actually come to the end of this session, and I'm going to open for question and answers. But before that, what I would actually want you to do is please, you can use Google Lens on your mobile, and if you can just scan this particular um, QR code that you see, you will be taken to a link which is on Mentimeter, and you can tell us how it went for you. Also, I think separately the team will be sharing the link with you also in the chat box. So please go to that link and you can put in one or two words about how the session went for you, right? The link is in the chat box. And just while you do that, I would quickly want to tell you a little bit about Hibiki, which is the organization that I come from, right? Hibiki is standing for resonance or echo. And that is exactly what our organization does, that we empower people to be self dependent or self reliant is the word. So we have facilitated over 5,000 workshops. We've touched more than 500K lives with different facilitation programs at school, college, and corporate level. So, it's been a wonderful journey. The issues that I'm presenting, in front of you are the issues that I have witnessed with myself. I faced it on my own. So that's exactly what my organization is set out to do. And I would thank you so much for the time, effort, and energy that you've put in. So we will just open the house for questions as soon as you have been able to go to that link and vote there. Thank you so much for being so patient, being so proactive. I've seen so many comments. I could not read all of them. I'm sorry for that. But thank you so much for everything that you've put in. My contact number is on the slide, please. It's just on the slide. You can take it from my slide. And I will also put it here for you if any of you are looking at getting in touch with me. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm just going to stop sharing my slides. So I've put in my number, and in case you want my email ID, I can share that with you too. So just give me a moment to see what are the quotes that we've got. Brilliant. So I'm just going to try and share this so that all of us can see. Akbar, if you can give me one moment, please. Here we are. So I hope you can see my slide. Maybe it's going to take a couple of seconds to load. But this is the feedback that we've received. I don't think it's visible as yet. Akbar, is it visible for you?
No, not yet. Can
Not
you
yet.
try sharing it again?
Yeah, I will. Just a moment. Thank you so much, everyone, for all the response that you've put in. Okay. Visible now? Not as yet, I guess.
Not as yet, yes. If you can share it with Piyush, I think Piyush can put it up on screen.
Yeah.
And everyone that's trying to access the feedback form, there is some technical issue. I'll get that cleared up.
So I'll just maybe, Akbar, try and copy it here, though it's not going to be very clear, but. And we can start taking the questions, Akbar. That's absolutely all right. If there are any questions, if you could please help me understanding them.
Sure. I don't see the questions yet, but anyone with questions, please feel free to comment on the chat and we'll pick them up from there.
Yeah, so I think I've again tried to load it here. I don't know, some reason nothing is getting shared anymore. I think it stopped working at a very good timing once I was done with my presentation. Great, but thank you so much, everyone, for the responses you've put in. I'm very humbled. Thank you so much.
Raman Soni is asking how he can collaborate, I guess, with
Yeah.
Hibiki.
Yeah, so I think he's already received my number. I can take forward that conversation with him. And I've also put in my email ID for everyone to see. So if there are any questions about how we do these programs at the school level, etc., I would be happy to take that too. So with Hibiki, what we've done is we've developed LSRW programs, and we've developed personality development programs, which we do with students. And since we are not the same faces that students keep seeing every day, we come from outside. So we've observed that these programs have had a positive response in terms of students being able to develop themselves, in terms of students being able to come out of their shell. And just because I'm sharing with you, I could tell you that I still have these little notes that students have written to me from schools and colleges, saying how it all went for them and how they feel empowered after they've gone through the Hibiki training. So So I'm also going to try and take a look at the chats now. Cindy, your question is emotional skills must be included in employability skills. I 100% agree. The skills that I've shown are just top 10 skills, but emotional intelligence, why employability? Even without employability, emotional intelligence is something that we need to have. I think 50% of our lives could get better if we can manage our emotions and manage our reactions and responses. So I hope I've answered that question for you. uh, Cletus, how do you actually help a person who is facing discrimination in the society? I do not want to get into what would I say, very revolutionary mode. So I'm not going to do that. But something that I will say is, if I was the person, I'm going to empower myself in a way that everyone will be like, "Hey, look who's walking." Who's passing. So I would do that. Bad things happen to people, happen to all of us. I'm sure we all have incidents which haven't been in our favor, but I think it's your mind. So either you can say wrong is happening to me, or you can say, you know what, doesn't matter, I'm going to change it, I'm the boss. And I do that to myself. Fake it till you make it. So I do that to myself. On the days that are not good days, I tell myself, Tani, you can pick yourself up, it'll work out, it's only happening. So you can do that for yourself. Jaya, your question is if you can get a link of a site. Everything is available online, Jaya. You can go to NASCOM related sites. They will give you a lot of data on employability skills. Also, there are a lot of blogs that you have on LinkedIn. So a lot of data that I get, it's from LinkedIn, because a lot of people write articles, and it's not just about India, it's also about abroad. So if you can actually use in your LinkedIn accounts to refer to these blogs and to refer to these sites, that's good. But otherwise, you can refer to all NASCOM related information, because they keep doing a lot of these surveys. All right. So Pushpa says how to start instilling these skills in the lower class students. This has exactly been my entire discussion, that, the way we teach them history, geography, English, it's the same way we need to take out some time to teach them these things that matter. So something like, you can have a non-flammable recipe, and you can get people to cook that together. So that's teamwork. They do it together in a team. So even with lower classes, you can do these fun things that they do together, and then you can explain to them that, what did you actually do? You actually did something together in the team, and whether you like this person or not, you've created what you wanted to create. Same way, when you grow up, there'll be people you don't like, so we will all have to work together. So you can do that. How you debrief is also very, very important. It has to be fun, but it also got to be something that they take back. So let's say when I do something as simple as listening, right, and I'm sharing a quick trick with you that we do during the session. So when I do listening skills, we do a simple origami activity. It's possible virtually, it's possible physically. So you're going to tell all your students that, just close your eyes and listen to my directions, and on the piece of paper you'll tell them, tear from the left, tear from the right, tear from the middle. You will see 15 students, all of them have torn the paper differently, but they were listening to the same instruction, they were listening to the same person. So it's the assumptions that they made, because of which the results were different. And this is exactly what we do with Hibiki. It's a very experiential style of training that we do. So you could do this. Any other questions, Akbar? I think I've taken most of them.
Not that I see.
Great.
I think that, yeah, yeah, I'm just scrolling through. It seems like all the questions have been answered.
Perfect. So, if any of you would be interested to know a little bit about Hibiki, me, our training styles, etc., please feel free to reach out to me. Could be via the email, could be via the phone number that I pasted for you. Of course, we could discuss things for you. And thank you so much for taking your time. And I would thank the entire team CENTA for being Simran, Piyush, Akbar. All of you have been very kind and genuine. So thank you so much for helping me through this entire session.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ajmera. We had an amazing session, and I think everyone has taken quite a bit out of it. I think it was very informative. So hopefully they can pass it on to their students. And as you said, your contact details are there. And yeah, I hope everyone found that very informative. So yes. I would like to thank Ms. Tanvi Ajmera from CENTA, and if everyone can, send their appreciation on the chat, that would be
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you, everyone, for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Take
Thank you,
care.
everyone.